Benoit, Chief Technical Officer at CIG, Lord of Server Meshing, has spoken to us on Spectrum. It's a glorious day. I'm going to go through the most interesting parts of the post, interject with some thoughts on the latest test for myself, and then read between the lines, because I think there's some really positive stuff here, but maybe some, not bad, but maybe slightly disappointing things in terms of timeline, maybe. The first part of the letter is effectively explaining how we got to where we are. Their previous test in March exposed a flaw with the messaging queue system currently in the engine. And so since then, they've basically been reworking and they've given us this new thing that we keep hearing about, RMQ. He shares their aims for this testing and this insight. We are aiming for a rapid iteration cycle to test our corrections and optimizations, ensuring progress at each step without interference from other changes to the game. Our goal is to conduct weekly tests until it is time to rejoin the main development branch for the 4.0 PTU waves. So their goal is to do weekly tests until they can get this back into the main branch with 4.0. And then they mention things like the mission system and social parts of the game that basically need to be fixed for 4.0 to work effectively. And so what we have to take from this is that they are aiming to do weekly tests. And as they go on to say a bit further down in the letter, this is quite early from their point of view. This is not something that is like the final bit of testing for server meshing. There's a sense where there's actually quite a lot of work to do here. And so if, like me, you'd lost your marbles and you'd got really optimistic and thought there's a chance we're going to get 4.0 before, maybe an Evocati before CitizenCon. That was my hope. I'd switched off the logical part of my brain and I'd said maybe there's a chance that 4.0 goes to Evocati before CitizenCon, and I think based on this, there's just no way that that's going to happen. There's no way that they're even going to get this server meshing work that they're doing back into the main branch in the next few weeks, because, as I said, they're going to be testing over the next few weeks. How many weeks does weeks mean? Who knows? I wouldn't be shocked if this continues after CitizenCon, that they're going to just keep testing and testing and testing, because, again, they do mention slightly further on that it is quite early work. Next, we moved on to a kind of post-action report, first for Server Meshing Test B that was done earlier in September. Meshing Test B was conducted on September the 12th and was the first test on RMQ. The results were disappointing and unexpected, but the previously identified bottleneck identified in Test A was confirmed fixed. While interaction delay at scale had improved, allowing us to leave players testing at a 4,350 setup, the problem remained. The next performance bottleneck to be solved was identified. And so this kind of matches what I found in this test. If you saw that video, I found that RMQ side of things seemed to be much better than previously, but there were still big problems. And it's interesting to see that it was unexpected and they were a bit disappointed with that one, because on some levels it was a significant step forward from their previous test, but they obviously were hoping for more. And as other people found, I watched Salty Mike's react to my video, his experience was completely different. Not exactly sure how or why it's so different, but there is obviously a disconnect between what they were hoping for going into that test and what actually happened. But as I said, they managed to identify the next bottleneck, which has actually then taken us into this recent test, Test C. Meshing Test C was conducted on September the 19th and included performance optimizations. Test C was the first to use a build with the legacy NMQ system stripped out. This was an important step as RMQ has been designed for greater parallelism, but these optimizations could not be unlocked whilst we still needed support NMQ. Test C included the first round of these planned optimizations and significantly improved our ability to scale before the interaction delay grows and the game becomes unplayable. This test also allowed us to start seeing more gameplay related issues as players spread around the game world and were able to experience a meshed universe. This test was a big step forward. We were able to successfully identify additional issues present, but walked away from this playtest feeling optimistic. So they're relatively happy with this test, and the general sentiment around the community seems to be very positive about this. I've seen some videos, watched back some streams. My personal experience, I didn't stay up for this one and it was in the middle of the night. I played the next day, the 500 player server that was only had 220 odd players on, and therefore it wasn't really much of a test from I can't really give you any information. In that configuration with that few players on, it was possibly one of the smoother experiences I've ever experienced in Star Citizen. But again, you're not pushing the limit of that server configuration there. So you wouldn't expect there to be many issues really. I saw Ollie do a load of testing of this. His experience was very positive. The only question mark around his experience, and I think not question mark, but the only thing to point out is that for the majority of this, I think he'd gone to a station and he was spawning in a space station, and so he would have been on a completely different server to all of the main landing locations, and the main landing locations are the ones that get spammed with players joining and really hammered. So it was really amazing to see a server with 1,000 players on, and he was running around playing the game. But that probably doesn't represent the experience of people on the planet. And the other thing that I saw was the Morphologist stream and then the video afterwards, which was him getting loads of players in Wally Spar and New Babbage, and he highlighted some of the things that Benoit was looking to test, and some of the things that they've mentioned in this letter. If you read that whole letter, things where actually things like the social system and just the game doesn't work that well if you get an MMO sort of player count in the servers. There's issues outside of server meshing in terms of chat doesn't work with that many players. Party stuff doesn't really work that well, and what he was seeing, Morphologist was seeing massive performance degradation effectively because he had so many players on his screen, and the markers, I think potentially, whether that's, who knows exactly what, but he's got a very beefy system. I think it's a 7950 X3D potentially, and it was really chugging. So plenty of things from this latest test that were really positive, and obviously CRG themselves are optimistic, but I don't think it's not like everything has been fixed, which you wouldn't expect it to be, and that is what they're talking about here in this letter, the rapid iteration. And we've already had a message this week saying that they're going to do more testing this week, and really I think this is kind of what everybody wanted from Star Citizen. They wanted this sort of, we've got something to test, we test it. We throw it out to the backers, they test it. And at various points we've had that, and at various points we've had long periods of time where it felt like as backers and as testers, there was nothing to do other than play the live version of the game. You weren't really contributing much. So I think a lot of people have found this quite exciting, to be like, we're like a strike team, we're doing what CRG is asking for, and hopefully this will continue, maybe with other parts of the game. Whilst these early results are promising steps forward, we're aware that challenges remain. We're committed to tackling each hurdle through rapid iteration, always aiming to improve your gaming experience. I was hopeful when we got to this stage that we'd be quite close, and that it would be, they'd worked everything out and then they would give it to us and we would test it to basically validate that everything they've done was working. But actually what's happening is that we've got quite an early version of server meshing, and we are the backers providing them with the data to be able to iterate and fix it and bring it to a place where actually it works. And again, I don't have any idea now when to expect 4.0 to actually come out, because as they say in this bit, it's a pleasure and a privilege to progress on this technology together. Your insights and patience are invaluable as we transform our game to be the MMO we want it to be. The aim of all this is to transform the game into an MMO, and it's bizarre because in the past they've talked about separating the delivery of Pyro and server meshing. They said they just wanted to make sure that they could deliver Pyro, and that seems to have changed slightly, in that we're now actually they're completely locked together again, and so we are basically completely, I think, beholden to server meshing when it comes to the delivery of 4.0. They're not going to do, I was wrong effectively a few weeks ago, and for a while I've been saying, well, it looks like that this testing is a kind of future looking, it's looking towards what the future of this could be, and maybe they'll just get 4.0 out the door with 100 players in Stanton and 100 players in Pyro. And it seems as that just is not their intention whatsoever. They are looking to, it seems, scale up much more than I thought. I mean, they keep testing this 6-server 1,000 player configuration, and who knows, maybe that is what they're aiming for the release of 4.0. They obviously are trying to move this from what is a multiplayer game to the MMO, the massively multiplayer game. And I suppose, like they often say, there isn't a load of point of them doing a load of work to just get Pyro and Stanton server mesh together in a tiny configuration, 100 and 100. That is almost wasted work, because that isn't the long-term future of the game, and the long-term future of the game is hopefully around or in the thousands of players per shard. So I guess they are basically going full steam ahead to try and get this technology where they want it to be for the future, and I'm surprised. It's going to be a very, very interesting few months. Can they rapidly get this working to the stage that they want it to, or is this going to be one of those times in Star System development where it just feels like everything just is completely stuck in the mud and we're just waiting for months and months and months? And I mean, interestingly, the fact that we've got a 3.24.2 coming soon to Evocati, like potentially this week, are we going to get a .3, .4? Or will we even get a 3? Will we even get a 3.25? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to despair, and I don't want to get too negative, but there's definitely signs within this letter that we're in for a bit of a long haul, I think, with server meshing testing. Hopefully I'm completely wrong about that, but there's hints in what they're saying. The language they're using is that we're going to be iterating on this testing for a while. Let me know what you think. I'm happy with that. I can live with that if it means that the game suddenly moves forward quite dramatically in terms of player count and in terms of the experience of, if they can bring us 1,000 players across the shard. I think that's probably worth pushing forward with, and maybe that will mean that we're midway through 2025 before 4.0 goes live. But I know a lot of you won't be that happy with that.